Welcome to the Mind Blowers podcast with me, Daniel Kafer. AI filmmaking has just crossed a game-changing threshold. What once took Hollywood studios millions of dollars can now be done for just a few thousand. Entire scenes and even full-length films can be created by AI, nearly indistinguishable from the real thing. Today I'm joined by Nathan Hallford, an AI filmmaker who has built a groundbreaking platform that's set to revolutionize how movies are made. If you've ever dreamed of directing your own Hollywood-level production, this episode will show you how that dream is suddenly within reach. Whether you're listening in or watching the video version where we showcase jaw-dropping AI film examples, get ready. The future of filmmaking is here. Hi, and welcome to the Mind Blowers podcast. Today we're going to talk about AI films and how it's going to impact the industry. Today in the studio we have Nathan Hallford to tell us more about how he's working with AI when creating movies. Hi Nathan, good to meet you and thank you for joining. Could you tell us a little bit about how you work with AI in terms of creating movies?
So basically I work with AI right now to basically create films from stories. So before I got into AI filmmaking, I was actually into filmmaking. I did short films and I was about to do a series, but then I decided not to go in that direction. And so I have a lot of experience with just story writing and screenwriting in general, and just also cinematography. So I built a platform called Cinematic Moments. And what it does, it allows us to take stories and then bring those stories to life. And those stories, actually, what they'll do is they'll be parsed into different prompts, into different engines. And then those engines then create content basically from those different stories. And we utilize right now the SORA model. We also utilize the VO3 model, but we're going to be utilizing just the MidJourney model that just came out as well. And if you'd like, I can show you one of the recent renders. Would you like that?
Sure, would love to see it.
Jacob! Fuck, where is she?
Did you know that acting gay was going to help save your wedding company, or how
How the fuck was I supposed to know that was gonna work? Fuck it. Hey, girl. So listen, I run a wedding company.
This one that's just about to be released on TikTok. It's about them basically, they got screwed on the first day at a wedding expo, and the wedding planner just didn't even show up. So you see one of them trying to say, where is she? Where is she? And the others are like just really angry. And then this particular show is going to follow a office style format where, like, you're probably aware of the show The Office, where every scene there's like an interviewing asking a question or maybe a few questions about what happened. And it's just different things. So this one is a really funny one. The next one that I'm actually working on is one where within their company, they actually have Filipina wedding assistants and they have American wedding assistants. And then next episode, the Filipino wedding assistants and the American wedding assistants are back in battle. So it's just it's an interesting situation because those three guys are in between two different groups of women trying to play referee and be mediator. So it's going to be a show that's all built around everything that happens funny and kind of messed up in the wedding industry. And so I built this Cinematic Moments platform so that I can actually take my stories and bring them to life. And I'm inviting other filmmakers in now to utilize the software. But the software is very unique in that you don't have to prompt it. You just basically write a story, and then the technology does everything else. It creates the actors for you. It actually lets you define what the actors are going to look like. It basically does all your TikTok branding for you, your TikTok deployment, and it also even makes sure that your content can consistently go viral by looking at the TikTok algorithm. So it's an all-in-one solution for filmmakers who want to really, take their filmmaking to the next level.
Yeah, I think it looked very impressive, and it was very hard for me to tell that it was AI at all. Let's talk a little bit about the industry. I remember when AI first came with ChatGPT, and you had people going on strike in Hollywood because the screenwriters were losing their jobs. How do you see this will impact the movie industry as a whole, and Hollywood in particular? Do you think most movies in the future will be made with AI alone, or do you think it will be like a combination of AI and kind of the normal ways of making movies?
I think there's actually going to be two different waves within AI. So there's a wave of people who utilize AI to basically kind of hurt people and make their opinions public about it. Then there's a group of people who use AI for good ethical reasons and just to basically improve human-led processes. So I feel like I'm a big lover of AI. I love utilizing it every day. I have ChatGPT as my number one go-to app, but I'm on the ethical human-led side. And what that means is I'm figuring out ways to make AI actually work for people and then work for myself. And I'm not basically ever going to have my company in a position where I'm just firing a bunch of people and then bragging about it within the press. So that I use AI. That's why I feel like as far as the business goes, there are two different categories. And I feel like what I've actually am going to be putting in from the start into my platform is the integration with human actors and human casting directors. Because even though we're building AI actors and we're basically making it so that they can feel, that they can grow, we don't want to, exclude humans from the mix. And we're wanting to grow alongside humans, alongside human acting, alongside human directing. So what we're doing is we're putting a feature from the start called Casting Room. And what that is if you have budget for your film, you can actually work with our internal casting director or other casting directors that are on the platform. And you can basically do your entire casting through our platform. And it's a really nice thing because you can basically develop, I would say, 40 to 60% within AI. Then you can utilize human actors for the rest of it. And then you can have, it's like a hybrid type of solution. So that's something that we're still in R&D on. But that's what I'm going to be doing next year. I'm actually looking to film one film in the Philippines in Asia called My Family in Asia. My Family in Asia. It's about a man who basically loses everything right after a divorce. And then he goes to Asia where a Filipino family adopts him. And it's kind of like, did you ever see the movie The Last Samurai?
Yes, I did.
With Tom Cruise? Okay. So it's kind of like that. He's really broken and he goes to Asia to rediscover himself and also to basically just find out who he is as a person. So he basically gets embedded with a small Filipino family near the mountains. And I actually have the script. We're going to make some edits and revisions to it. We're going to be shooting it, and we're going to be shooting it through the platform. So certain parts of it are going to be AI based and other parts are going to be human based. I don't think that I want to do the shooting of the Philippines with AI like I did with my previous short, because the Philippines is just so beautiful. Have you ever been there?
I haven't, but I lived in Qatar and we worked with several Filipinos, so I saw a lot of pictures from the Philippines. So, and it is beautiful, definitely.
Yeah, it is. And so what I did with one of my previous renders, and you can put in the video, is I basically was the first to create AI generated imagery around the Philippines. So I utilized AI models to create different scenes within the Philippines. You can see it on TikTok under My Family in Asia. And when we actually shoot it, we're going to be shooting actual spots within the Philippines, like Boracay, Manila, Davao, within the film, because I think it's just more beautiful on film to do it that way. And yeah, so as far as like my thought process of like AI filmmaking, I feel like if you're an AI filmmaker and you're interested in helping the human race advance and grow and get better, and you utilize these technologies to actually help you grow and improve, it's fine. It's just there's this my growing concerns is just there's this group of AI filmmakers like, oh, we don't need actors, we don't need this, we don't need that because we have AI. And I don't think that that's right. I think that humans and AI can work together and create some great work.
Yeah, I guess there are many hybrid models. I mean, how would you look at it from a supply side point of view? Do you think we'll see a future where there'll be like 10x in the numbers of film made every year because of AI?
I think so. I think with the VO3 model, what they've done is they've made it so content creators can basically get into it from the start. You'll see that on TikTok with all the new shorts there. I think they've made it also very, very hard to monetize content. That's like one of the core problems that cinematic moments will solve from the start is monetizing your content, which is a big thing. For example, my wife is a content creator and she's been doing it for about a year, and she's only starting to see a return on her investment of her time into it because it just takes so long to monetize content. And one of the other things is that with all these new content creators coming out, it's just going to be exponentially harder to monetize if you don't know how to monetize from the start. So I feel like it's going to create this big wave of all these new creators, but it's also going to create problems as well that we have to solve.
If we talk a little bit about where we are with the technology. So, I mean, 2 years ago, you had to work really hard to make something that was just worthwhile watching, and still everybody could see it was AI, at least the people I know who work with it. And I guess now with what you're able to show me, it's really starting to get difficult to tell whether it's AI or not, but it still needs some pretty advanced prompting. When do you think we'll get to a level where you can basically tell AI, what type of mood you're in, and AI will create the script and the movie in minutes?
So I don't think that we're at the point yet where AI can be that creative. I actually have been utilizing AI for a while now to do creative writing. And if I don't tell AI, if I don't give it at least 4 to 6 sentences, what it ends up creating is some nonsense that I won't even want to watch if I'm like really, really tired of just watching everything else, because it just doesn't know how to think with creativity. So what you have to do is you really have to basically just give it a core idea, then let it basically take that and run with it. So I feel like because it's still at that state where it just needs a core idea, you can't really just have it create things on the fly, because it will just create stuff that doesn't make sense. And yeah, so my tool Cinematic Moments is making it easier though. So even if you have just that 4 to 6 sentences, you can really run with it, and AI will help you co-create with you on your behalf. Yeah, so I feel like as far as timing goes, so with the new versions of the Claude Sonnet that are coming out, and the new versions of the OpenAI models like O3 Pro that allow the models to write code and become autonomous agentic agents, I feel like we're very close to that happening within, I would say, 4 to 6 months, with just having 1 to 2 lines of text to actually create good content. I think that what's going to end up happening is they're just going to get better and better, and then our velocity as a human race is just going to go faster and faster, because the models can now write really good production level code. I mean, you'll see in the news where they're saying, oh, AI can only write code as good as a junior level engineer. I don't think that is correct with the new reasoning models. I think if you have a person who knows a lot and they're utilizing O3 Pro, they're utilizing Claude Sonnet 4.0, they can actually write pretty good code really fast. So you can have one person doing the job of 5 to 10 people with AI, just the right person. But the thing is that you really have to have that one core person. So I feel like as far as like the ability to just create great content off of 2 lines is going to probably be here within about 6 months, I think. based off of how fast I'm seeing things going, but it's basically you're going to have to give up some levels of control and creativity to the model to do that. You're going to have to be okay with that. You're going to have to be okay with giving the model, okay, well, I have a really good story. It's 3 lines, but can you make the rest? And then it's just going to be an iterative process. So you're going to give it 3 lines. AI is going to give you, like maybe like 20, 25 lines, and you're going to have to make edits. So that's the type of workflow that I'm looking to also put into place. Basically, that's a workflow that I use. I use a workflow of like, okay, I start writing 4 to 6 sentences, then AI will write another 5 to 10 sentences. And then I take the 5 to 10 and then I look at it and like, okay, do I like it? If I don't, then I scrap it. So it's just an iterative process where you're utilizing AI as a writing assistant. And I feel like once we can get to that point, it's like a society where we're just utilizing AI as an assistant, we can get a lot done, and then we can make it like you want, where like you have 2 to 3 lines of text that generate a whole story.
So, how do you see the AI technology in movies? Do you see it at the end state, at something like the consumer would make their own movies just for themselves? So today, when you sit down in front of your TV screen, you would probably have to choose between whether you go on YouTube and search for something or browse, or you would go on Netflix, for example. But do you see AI as being an alternative that you would simply just log into maybe a futuristic platform like the one you're building yourself, and then just talk to it about what you would like to see? And then after you answer a couple of questions, for example, then it would develop a whole new movie for you?
I think so. I'm trying not to put the word prompt into the platform. I think prompt scares people away. I'm trying to make it more story-based, because that's actually how I started in the content creation industry, just with stories. So, and I feel like just a story writing assistant is what we're going to be launching with, which is really a really nice thing. And I feel like just to get to the future state, what we need to do is we just need to kind of all learn prompting, but it's hard because there's still all these different connotations about AI around. So that's why for cinematic moments, it's just basically we're calling everything stories.
But do you need to kind of speak a prompting language in the future, or do you just need in very basic words to be able to explain what you're looking for?
I think in the future, you'll be able to just basically all the machines, all the different things that you're going to be utilizing are all going to be just listening to instructions at that point, right? And we're just basically give us an instruction, and the machine's going to have learned what that instruction is, be able to do things with it. For example, like for Cursor is a really great tool if you're trying to do development. But with Cursor, at first you have to be very verbose with it. But then as you use it, because it has its own local LLM, you basically can just pass in just 1 to 2 sentences, and it already says, okay, well, I did that already, so I already know what that means. So let me just do that same thing. And then that's what's going to end up happening as we keep feeding data into these different models. We're going to consistently see it that we have less of a complex prompt that we have to pass in. And we can see that with VO3. Because basically for SORA, for doing my content, I had to do such complex JSON just to pass in, just to get it to where it is at VO3. But with VO3, I'm noticing that their prompting engine is very good. So now, instead of like that huge 2,000 line prompt that I had to have, now I can literally just have like maybe a 2-paragraph prompt that does the same thing.
Do you think this new technology will mean that many ideas will come to life that in the current models they wouldn't have a chance, because first you would have to write a script, and then a film production house would have to approve it, and you would get investors and so on to actually make a film? Do you think that whole process will dissolve now?
So yeah, I think the biggest issue within the entertainment industry has always been getting money, right? Getting money from movies. You have a really good script. How do I get money for a movie? So Cinematic Moments solves that problem because you put your script into it, it comes to life. You already have like an investor reel that you can go and then you can get money. And then it also helps you with like getting followers for your content, getting people to actually look at your content. So that's another thing that it helps you with, so that you basically can go into those conversations with the big production companies. Like, okay, well, I have 1 million followers on TikTok. I'm consistently going viral there. And this is, I'd like to see about making a relationship to getting my content onto, for example, like a Netflix. So it provides another stream of content creators to go into the entertainment industry. And it also provides a stream of way for you to basically create like a minimal viable product for your different stories or your IP.
Do you expect to get pushback from the industry, not just for your platform, but the idea in general that we can create movies with AI? I mean, potentially people saying that artistic films will no longer be done, or the second you put everybody in the role of kind of directors, kind of the magic will go away from Hollywood filmmaking.
I used to think that would be the case, but what I've actually seen is it just raises the bar, right? So you have to be really good at content creation now to really get seen. I think it's actually a good thing that it's happening because it's going to create such crazy good films and crazy good shows that you wouldn't have seen like originally, because it basically raises the bar. Now content creators, to get seen, they have to do something really, really good, really funny, really entertaining. So people are going to have a much higher level of expectation for content creation. I don't think it's going to really hurt the industry. I think forward-thinking people like me are going to keep on creating platforms that bind them. I think the platforms that are not binding two different groups of people are going to have a lot of problems surviving. I don't know if you saw, but like MidJourney recently got hit with a lawsuit from, I think, one of the big production companies because of I'm not really sure why it was, but I just know that happened. So I feel like there is going to be some pushback, but I feel like if we just, that's why we're developing like Cinematic Moments. We're creating what's called a founders artists group, where basically we're having filmmakers join that group who actually have done a lot of human films, so that they can actually have a really good say in what actually happens with the platform. We actually have one onboarded right now. He's actually won an Emmy, and we're going to be getting additional ones on. And this way we can create something really great that filmmakers can use. The biggest thing that I saw with the other tools that were out there was, especially for VO3. VO3 is like, it's good on a technical level, but like if you're a filmmaker, you don't really know how to use it. You have to do a lot of training up front just to use it. And so there needs to be more about the story creations within it. And then also the other tools like SORA, same thing. So I feel like we're in the really fun part where basically of our existence as humans, because whatever you think here, you can put here. And that's very exciting because you can basically see your ideas, your visions just come to life.
Do you think the type of movies we'll see are going to change? I'm thinking because after we got social media, we have seen attention spans being shorter and shorter, and I've even experienced this with some people starting to see maybe the new Batman movie, and if it kind of starts slowly, they might actually give up on it. Do you think this will accelerate that trend even more, or do you think that there will that people will still kind of appreciate long form, and that movies can be like slow burning, so to speak, and evolve slowly?
I think there's going to be a lot more outside the box ideas that are coming, right? For example, I don't know if you saw the Bigfoot TikTok sensation right now.
Yes.
So that usually would not have been created by a production company, right? Because it has very interesting elements into it that you wouldn't see. But people find it very funny. They laugh all day long watching it. And I feel like other things like that are going to come out. Like I have a short that's coming out. Are you familiar with Herbie from the 70s? And I think there was one with Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah. I've seen those.
So yeah, so basically I'm making a short about a Tesla who's kind of like a bandit. He's like kind of like a demonic Tesla, but you don't know it when you get in because you're just renting him from like I call it Mavis, right? And you're renting him, and then basically he kind of just messes with people and messes with cars. And it's pretty funny because like it's also introducing lots of different elements that we'll see in society, because a lot of my content is like a lot on societal issues. And it's funny. So it's kind of like, did you ever see the show Arrested Development?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, a lot of like the sitcom type of content that I do seems to be like that. So it's going to be very similar to that. We're going to have that sort of content coming out, because what ends up happening, I feel like, is at the studio levels, there's a lot of like red tape that has to get a person has to go through. So let's say that someone has a great idea on the production floor, but they pitch their script, they pitch their idea to the higher ups, but then the higher ups, they don't want to produce it. So they basically it never gets made. But now, because of these AI filmmaking tools, all of those previous concepts that were kind of like not made can now get made. And then people are starting to really love them, as you see with the Bigfoot. But the only issues that I have with the Bigfoot and what I'm seeing on TikTok is that I've seen this trend now of content coming to TikTok and it has curse words in it. And then when you have like small kids and you're watching TikTok, it's a little bit difficult because it's like, well, you're watching TikTok and there's all these different curse words in it, and you have to figure out what to do. So I feel like that's a bigger problem that TikTok's gonna have to solve soon, is basically assigning like ratings, right, to their content, just like the movies do. Movies have like, R rating, PG rating, PG-13, but that doesn't exist yet for like AI filmmaking. And I feel like that's going to happen soon, because a lot of the creators I'm seeing are starting to use like curse words in their content. And it's just really, just in my opinion, just takes like one case, right, to set a precedent.
Well, talking about censorship, I think people who have used, for example, MidJourney or Runway or BO3, they are experiencing censorship. For example, I've done podcasts on warfare where I'm trying to illustrate like maybe a tank being attacked by a drone and things like that. I've experienced quite a lot of censorship where this is breaching the guidelines as soon as there's this little bit of violence how do you deal with that within your platform? I mean, can you avoid being restricted in your art by the models?
So we have different, that's a really good question. We actually have different algorithms that we're deploying in place to solve that particular problem with each model. So each model has its own content guideline on what it will accept and what it won't accept. And one of the things is, if, for example, I'm working on like a thriller horror film right now called Leviathan, and certain parts of it, like VO3, doesn't want to render because it says it violated the content guidelines. So we're developing systems within our engines that allow us to basically take the content and then make slight modifications to it so that it can basically adhere to their guidelines, because a lot of these different models have content guidelines, and you don't want to violate them, but you don't even know really what they are until you violate them, and then they'll say, okay, this might violate our content guidelines. So it's just very interesting, because I don't even think like Google Veo 3 really knows yet what all the guidelines are, because it's just it's unprecedented. We don't really know yet. We don't have laws yet to define it, but each platform is different. So with our platform, because we're using multiple models right now to do this, in about 3 to 6 months from now, we're going to be developing our own custom model that is basically all about just storytelling. So we're going to have our own content guidelines and suggestions for our own model. And that's basically by just, we're going to be looking at all the different like laws and all the different restrictions that are happening. Because I think like what's going to end up happening is there's just going to be some content that's created that's going to be like a deep fake of something, and it's going to end up in the press, and it's just going to, just like with MidJourney's lawsuit, it's just going to have a lot of blowback. So it's better to just get ahead of that issue than behind it. So yeah, to answer your question, you really have to like know what the guidelines are in each model. I'm pretty familiar with what they are in SORA, and Veo 3, it looks like they are pretty much the same, but I would say mostly the guidelines are, if you're going to use like blood, it has to be just like red pats on the face. It has to be red pats on the body. You can't have anything like dripping blood. If you want to do anything with like violence, you can't have minors in it. It's very restrictive on what it does with minors. At first, when SORA first came out, you couldn't even have any minors in your content. Now you can have minors, but they have to be doing, different things. I'm pretty sure at the bigger companies, they're utilizing all these different practices to help prevent like things from slipping in, because you could have people who are using these tools for nefarious purposes. So you have to also keep that in mind. So I feel like content like lockdown and content security is going to be a big thing as these platforms evolve, especially my own, because we just don't want something shipped that just paints things in the wrong light. I've noticed that with a lot of the models right now, you can actually utilize it for like more like racist type of content. And yes, so there's different restrictions that need to be put in place. I feel like for this industry, I feel like this industry just is so new. It's just hard to put that in right now. We're just consistently trying to get that in place, but I feel like that's coming soon.
What do you think it's going to work like in terms of being able to use celebrities? So in terms of, do you think it will be possible to kind of license to use a famous actor? So for example, say you want Jennifer Lawrence in your movie, and obviously you cannot afford her, but then you can pay a few $100s for having an AI copy of her in your film. How do you think that might evolve?
So I've gotten really good with our technology to actually do what you just said with different models, and it's basically called character impersonation. You basically, what you'll do is you'll take a character, you'll convert them into a 3D model. You'll take your 3D model and then you'll put that into our engine. So we're doing that. We're going to be doing that for launch right out of the box, because we need to do that for the Leviathan story. We have a 3D model of Leviathan and different walks of life that he's doing. So that's actually why I actually was planning to release that as well. We actually are making some relationships right now with casting directors so that you can do what you just said, where basically, let's say you don't have the money to get Tom Cruise into your film. You can decide to utilize our casting room and work with a casting agent, and then they basically will reach out, because that's the way that casting agents work. They reach out to the talent agent or basically the manager of the celebrity, and then they request if they can be utilized in another way, in another form, in a platform. So once we do our first deals like that, we'll be able to set precedent for that to happen. But the thing is, if that's going to happen, the celebrity is going to want a ridiculously good like visualization. They're going to want to see what they're actually going to do in the film before they do it. But it's just a nice way for celebrities to really get additional revenue streams, because now they're making money off of their films without them actually having to be in a film. they just basically get a 3D model created, and then they're in a film without them actually having to be within it. So they're making money off their personal brand. So I think that that's going to be a big industry in the future, where you have all these different celebrities who are like, well, I want to be in that, but I don't have to. I can just shoot maybe 2 or 3 scenes, right? Basically on set. And then the rest, they can just put me into it through AI.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely opens up some very interesting ways of collaborating. But you can, of course, also question what about the lack of control, right? Because Tom Cruise would probably like to see the script and have an idea of kind of the quality that the movie will end up having before allowing his AI persona to be used. How do you see kind of it will be possible to put some checks and balances in place between the actors and you would say the amateur filmmakers, the ones who are untested and untried?
I think so. I think that we're basically going to have to develop a content security system. We're going to have to make sure that everything's sticking as close to the script as possible. Going to have to disable the magic features that we have. So we have a magic feature that we're launching with, where you basically can just put in 4 to 6 sentences, and then it just basically magically creates your story, and then you just tag team in tandem with our AI for you to create your story. So in that particular case, they're not going to want that. So celebrities have a very, they have a very great personal brand that they want to maintain always. So they're going to have, everything is going to have the guardrails with the script. So we can't really do what we're doing right now once we get to that stage where basically we take the script, we make some alterations so it looks good with an AI film. We have to have it at a point where we're sticking to the script as much as possible, because I've been in the production industry before. As soon as there's a script change, there's at least 3 to 4 people who have to approve of it. You have to get the executive producer, you have to get the producer, you have to get the agent of the talent, and you have to get the talent to approve that particular change to the script. That's because they don't want to be doing things on sets. And as soon as we even have the virtualization technology completely built with our personas, we don't want to go off the rails. So we're always going to stick to the script.
Do you see any breaks on this development, or do you think it's exponential in terms of AI filmmaking and the quality of what is possible?
I think as far as what is possible and the limitations, I don't think there is a limitation right now. I think it's all about data. I think that if you have a deep understanding of vectorization of data sets like I do, you'll understand that everything within AI is possible. It's just about the data. So someone has to prompt for the engine to understand what to do, to build the code that's needed, so it saves that blueprint of what it did, so someone else can come in on it and do it better with a better prompt. So I don't think that it's going to stop. I think it's just going to get faster and faster, because we're at a stage right now. I just saw a guy on the news. He's being sued because he decided it's just such a good idea to use AI to clone an actual corporation. So let me clone the corporation and then start my own. So we're at a very interesting time, because now the reasoning models allow us to do that, and allow us to actually build it. And we have AI agents that can create code that allows us to do that. So I think right now, one of the biggest things that you need to do is really just hone down on having a really good personal brand, hone down on really creating great products, or even a good company brand, because what was impossible before is now starting to become possible. And we're seeing that with how fast VO3 is actually getting better and better. So VO3 has so many people using it. So now VO3 can do so many different generations of all these different content. But VO3 is not able to, that I can see yet, really do a lot of work with like special effects. it doesn't really do that well. So it does like conversational sitcom style, but like special effects, it's not there yet. Other models are there, but they're more complex to work with. So yeah. To answer your question, I think that it's definitely possible.
Do you think when you look at the US film industry, do you think it will be disrupted? So it will be a new breed of, let's say, actors and directors and script writers who will embrace this, while you could say the old guard will try to protect what they're doing and continue? Or do you think it will be more of the old guard actually embracing the new technologies?
I think that there's so much fear that's been put into the press by AI that you'll have your older filmmakers who are going to want to learn prompting, want to be on the new things, just because they don't want to be left in the dust. I feel like the media has this really good way of just creating fear and basically putting a certain narrative in place, so that fear is going to force people to really want to learn the newer tech and grow with it. And I feel like what's going to end up happening is we're going to have a different type of entertainment industry where we have AI filmmakers working with traditional filmmakers, and that we have AI specialists also working within Hollywood. I think it's going to be a very interesting and dynamic type of culture because we're going to have different minds within there. I think there's going to be pushback, though. I think right now we're still all kind of just, basically still in shock about VO3, about what it's capable of. But I think that once that shock dissipates, we're going to have to figure out how best to, move forward, especially with tools like Cinematic Moments and other ones coming out. We're going to be in a very interesting and new type of filmmaking industry. But I feel like it's a really good thing because think about all of the AI filmmakers that are coming up right now with great stories. And they don't, if AI didn't exist, those filmmakers wouldn't have had their opportunity to showcase their work. They wouldn't have opportunity for people to see their work. So it's a really good time because there's a lot of like underdogs that are rising. And the underdogs that are rising are bringing some really unique ideas and concepts to the table. And that's a really good thing because I don't know about you, but every time I go to a movie theater and I spend money and I invest money into a movie ticket, I always want to leave the theater knowing like, okay, that $10, $15 on the tickets plus all the popcorn and drinks was really worth it for me. I would definitely do that again versus, me saying, oh, that movie kind of sucked. Can't believe I wasted time on that.
So could you take us through kind of the history of the different models? I think Runway, I guess, was the industry leader for a while on video, and then MidJourney on pictures was kind of the leader. But now you talk about VO3 from Google, shocking everyone. But how have you seen that journey? Have you seen it kind of a straight line of development, or is it again more exponential?
I think it's more exponential. I think what ends up happening is it's really about which company has the best marketing that the people go to. So SORA is so powerful. People don't understand how powerful SORA is. And SORA, you can show the clips in the show, is so powerful because it allows you to do special effects that you would find in like movies that you would see in the theaters. And it's just people are not aware of it, but they're more aware of Google because the Google's prompting engine is a lot easier to work with versus SORA's prompting engine. So I feel like what's going to end up happening and what I've seen happen is like the tools that are more complex are basically not going to get as much attention. Like Runway was the industry standard for quite some time, but then Runway it was basically not as powerful as SORA. So you couldn't do like text to video very easily. You couldn't do JSON prompting very easily. So what ended up happening was then SORA was the runner, but then SORA had a big problem. SORA, you couldn't do dialogue. And you still can't do dialogue in SORA without doing basically taking the audio stream and then basically subbing it to the video and then trying to make sure that the faces align with the movements of the audio. So then that's why it took me like a bit of time before I started releasing content again, because I didn't like how like SORA rendered the mouth movements, and VO3 does it a lot better, and VO3 has it from the start. So I feel like what's going to end up happening now is we're going to have a model that comes out, and that model is going to basically be a lot better than VO3. So I think right now we're in a race to see who has the best model, who has the fastest model, who has a model that can actually generate the best content as quickly as possible.
So are you seeing OpenAI winning that race, or Google winning that race, or somebody else?
I'm thinking it's going to, if someone's going to win that race, it's going to be someone who has experience with filmmaking, experience with technology, and knows how to do networking. I'm thinking the company that knows how to do that to bridge them is going to be the one who wins that race. It's because the problem with these different models is that they always build a UI, a user interface around their model, but the models are very powerful, but the UI is really not. So what ends up happening is you have a really fast engine, but you don't have a way to really sit in the car unless you know how to actually work with the parts of the engine. So I feel like the person who actually creates the best UI that people really love and has a really powerful model is going to be the one that wins that race. But I think that right now, as far as like video generation and video models go, it's a very fast race. It's whoever can get the smartest minds. And I think I have a feeling that OpenAI might just come back after VO3 and have a really kick-ass like product that's much better than SORA, bring that out to market, because they basically got beat with VO3, and that's might be what they're working on, because I don't see that many updates happening to SORA right now.
Well, I mean, I think you could imagine that they combine the user friendliness of how ChatGPT works with SORA, so that you could just in human language explain to ChatGPT what you want to achieve, and then ChatGPT could maybe ask some counter questions and then translate it to a more professional prompt that would work on SORA. I mean, that is at least a big improvement that I would be able to see, because I mean, ChatGPT is very good at translating your ideas into prompts. I mean, I very often say, okay, I want to visualize something like this. Can you create the prompt for me? And it does a pretty decent job.
I think so. So the thing with ChatGPT and OpenAI is in a race to be the best. So what ends up happening is when you're in a race to be the best, you keep on coming up with product ideas and then keep coming up with different things that your LLMs are doing to make you the best. And then what ends up happening is you end up just kind of like wiping out different AI companies as you go. So I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to have so many companies that are just consistently kind of being wiped out by OpenAI, because OpenAI has really good product people. So it's thinking of products consistently to basically just keep, I would say, just disrupting different industries. So as far as like that tool that you're talking about, I think what needs to happen is they need to probably do like more like research and development with actual people who are going to be utilizing the tool. I think once they developed SORA, they developed it just thinking like, okay, this is really cool for creating short clips. But now the industry is going so fast and it's going in such a different direction that there needs to be tools that are built around the different models that allow people to basically have similar type of workflows that they would have when they're working on an actual production or an actual film.
So if you met a young person who said, I want to be in the film industry, what sort of roles do you think there will be more of in the film industry? Do you think there will be new roles, and which ones do you think will be a thing of the past?
I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to have these different roles, but they're going to have the phrase is AI, artificial intelligence. like, so it's going to be artificial intelligence cinematographer, artificial intelligence filmmaker, artificial intelligence director. And we're going to have this thing, because you're going to have to know, like, basically, I had to learn when I was doing content creation all the different shots, and what's a dolly shot, for example, what's an extremely close-up shot, right? What's all these different shots, and I had to learn that. So you're still going to have to know the basics and the foundations, just like if you're like an engineer, you're going to have to learn the basics and the foundations of being an engineer, and then that's going to help you in your day-to-day role. I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to be looking at, like, basically filming with cameras, filming with all these different things as a core needs to have that to understand it. But we're going to basically also need to know what the models are. So I feel like we're a very fast-paced type of society right now, where we have to know, like, AI, and we have to also know the different tools that we need to do our day-to-day job.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually an interesting point, because when I saw some of the really beautiful art on, for example, MidJourney, I've talked to the artists and say, how did you do that? And they explained to me, well, it's because I have a profound knowledge of art. So I know exactly, the way to describe what type of art I'm looking for. Maybe like if it's a photography style, maybe they would name specific photographers that they were inspired by their style to get these pieces of art. And I guess that would be at least as true in movie making, right? That you would need to understand all these terms and all these ways to shoot a scene in order to get the best results.
I think so. I think if you're going to become an AI filmmaker, you have to really understand films in general. You have to understand what makes a film really good. You have to understand all the different camera angles and shots. You have to understand, like, character arches. You have to understand basically just, storytelling. So I feel like AI filmmaking is going to be a very disruptive type of industry to get in, but it's also going to be very difficult, because you're going to have to learn all these different things if you want to do it. So I feel like if you're like back in the day, if you wanted to be a filmmaker, what you would do is you would just hire a crew, and you would pay like $5,000 to $10,000 and make a short film. Now you don't need to do that, but you still need to know all the different camera angles, because if you don't know the camera angles, and you don't know cinematography, and you don't have like an art to what you're doing, your content ends up looking like just like anything else, because AI is making those decisions for you. So you have to know the shots. You have to know, like, pacing between the shots. You have to know everything, and then that's why it's a really good thing, to be honest, to utilize SORA, because with SORA you can utilize shots, you can utilize cinematography, you can basically custom define that within JSON, and then you basically can learn all of this without having to go to film school, because you're basically just telling, okay, I want this particular scene in a dolly shot, and I want this one in a drone shot, I want this shot, this shot, this shot, and you can basically just utilize the tool to help you learn all the shots, and then you have to just go into character arches after that. So I feel like there's going to be a path of AI filmmakers who are basically not going to film school to learn the trade because of the tools. They're able to now just utilize the tools to learn. And I'm very actually excited for the next generation of filmmakers who are coming, because it's easier to learn than ever before.
But I'm just thinking, one way to get around this when AI is a little more advanced is simply to ask them to copy a style. So let's say you're a big fan of Steven Spielberg, for example, or George Lucas. I guess you could say, in every decision, try to emulate the camera angles or the storytelling of these directors. Do you think that will happen, or do you think we'll see a more and more specialized skill set? So you would have one who would be an expert on working on scripts together with AI, and one who would be an expert cameraman, but helping the AI to kind of find the most interesting shots?
I think it's really gonna go down to, like, what you're really passionate about, right? So if, like, So to become a really good AI filmmaker, you have to really know shots. You have to understand shots. You have to understand human emotion and storytelling. You can't just put like different visuals up in different camera angles. You have to know storytelling. Storytelling is a big thing too. And we're seeing that with like what's happening with this Bigfoot craze that's happening on TikTok right now. It's because it's all about storytelling. So I feel like it's going to be harder to become like an AI filmmaker in the future, because there's going to be a lot of people who just like, well, I don't really want to learn the shots. I just want to make AI films, but then their films are going to look very similar to other people's films. And this is not going to be anything that keeps you apart. So I think what's going to end up happening is it's going to become oversaturated and crowded in AI filmmaking in the next 1 or 2 years. And if you really want to make yourself stand apart from the rest, you have to really understand everything as far as cinematography, as far as visuals, storytelling, because then you can do that. But yeah, as far as like what you're talking about, just going after a certain director style. So in my opinion, that might work for one film that you do or 2 films, but people are going to know that's happening, and they're not going to really like it, because they're going to be like, well, I spent so many years like perfecting my craft to do that sort of shot, and then there's just a copycat. So I feel like what ends up happening with that is like, if you're going to utilize like a certain director as an inspiration, you should do that, but also like make your own twist to it. So like, we actually had a feature we were thinking about to release from the start, which was basically what you just said, where we're taking director styles and then we're bringing them into the software so that you can select it. But like, I decided not to include that for the launch, because I thought that it was basically, because I respect their art a lot of the different directors, and I don't want to put something in that's going to create a lot of just mock art off of the directing styles. So you can, in our platform, specify directing styles, but we're not going to make it so entirely visible. And you can do that right now with the different models too. Like VO3, you can put a directing style. You can do that in SORA. You can do that in the other models, and it will learn, because and it's really smart. The models have learned to do that. But like, I would suggest though, just come up with your own shot sequence, your own content, your own flows, so you'll have your own specific style to your work.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Anyway, it's going to be super interesting to follow what will happen in the film industry in the coming years with AI.